Good day everyone, and in this video we'll be talking about arrays. So let's go ahead and create a new file as we've done. So create a new file and let's go ahead and save that as arrays.js in our Node Basics folder. So now, what is an array? An array is a special variable which can hold more than one value. So when we were learning about variables, we have created variables like this. Name is equal to John. We've always created variable like this. It holds one value, or we've said our age is equal to 1. We've done a lot of this, and even for objects we've said maybe person is equal to. So these are single storage variables. An array is a special kind of variable that holds more than one value. Now the use case of this is if you have a list of items, rather than store them in a single variable, like for example we have a variable car and we have multiple type of cars, and let's say we have car 1 is equal to maybe Rolls Royce, for example. Then car 2 is equal to maybe a BMW. We are declaring multiple variables to store this kind of data. An array would help you use just one variable to store that data, and an array is a sequence. So let's go ahead and create our first array. You can create an array by just saying you declare it as a variable. You can just say cars is equal to, then you open a block quote, then inside your block quote then you can put your first car, which is BMW. You can put your second car, which is maybe a Rolls Royce, and it can go on and on and on and on and on like that. Now the good thing with this is, because you are creating it in a sequence, you can just go ahead and find an element in an array, because it's a sequence, just by going through the sequence. Now there are several ways through which we can declare arrays. I think we've done one here. We declared it and we gave it all the values. There are several ways we can also declare arrays. Now, like I said, an array is a sequence, and you have to access elements of an array by the index of the array. So this is your array, this is the elements of your array. You have to get an item by using the index of the array, and we said it's a sequence. So this is, let's say for example, ideally this is your car 1, this is your car 2. But in arrays the index starts from 0, so this is your car 0 actually. So for you to access elements of an array, you have to take the variable of an array, cars, and you can open a block quote and you put car 0. 0 is the first index of an array. So if you have 10 cars here, the first one begins from 0 and the last one becomes 9. So let's go ahead and just print this out to the screen. Let's console.log car 0 to the screen. Console.log car 0. Now we will go ahead and run Node.Arrays.js. We have an error. Okay, car is not defined. We named our variable cars, so let's go ahead and correct that mistake and run our code again. So now you can see that car 0 is BMW because 0 is the first index of an array. So now, like I said, there are other several ways through which we can declare an array. As an object, we can declare an array and leave it empty like this. Then we can go ahead and start initializing stuff inside. We can create a new array element by just saying cars, open a block quote and say cars 0 is equal to BMW. Now if you go ahead and console.log cars 0 to the screen and we run our node arrays.js, we still get a BMW. If we can, let's add one more. We can say cars 1 is equal to Peugeot, for example. I can't get the spelling of Peugeot, so let's just use a Toyota. If we go ahead and console.log cars 1 to the screen, we can see that we have Toyota printed out to the screen. Let's try print out something that we have not declared yet, and we get undefined because we have not set the value for cars 2. So now this is another way in which you can create your arrays. You just initialize first and then you go ahead to use them to add values to them. Now another way in which we can declare arrays is using the JavaScript new keyword. You can just use variable cars is equal to new array, then inside your new array you can just maybe your BMW and your Toyota. Let's add one more. Let's add a Chevrolet. Now you can go ahead and print out cars 2 to the screen because, like I said, the index of the first one is 0, the second one is 1, and the third one becomes 2, on and on and on. So if you go ahead and console.log cars 2, you can see you have Chevrolet printed out on the screen. Like I said, you can also change the index. You can change the value of an element in an array by just, for example, you can just do cars 2. We want to change from Chevy, and we want to change the value of cars 2. Sorry, it's not supposed to be a string. Cars 2, we can make that we can make cars 2 a Range Rover. Initially it was a Chevy. You can go ahead and change it now and make it a Range Rover. So if we go ahead and print that out to the screen, we print out cars 2 to the screen, we can see that we should have changed the value from a Chevrolet to a Range Rover. Now you can print out, you can console.log cars, the array itself, to the screen. You can access the full array and you can see we have, in a sequence, we have BMW, we have Toyota, and we have a Range Rover because we have changed Range Rover over here. Now it's a lot similar to objects, and for example, for clarity itself, a array is a type of object. You should see that it's similar to object in some ways. An array is a special type of object. If you go ahead and The difference between objects and arrays are just that object uses name while array uses indexes. And an array can take several forms of data. An array can take numbers. For example, we can have, let me leave this out. I would maintain cars, but I would just change this to 1, to 2, and to 3. We can go ahead and run this, and we can see that it displays our numbers to the screen. An array can also take you can take other forms of data. You can take numbers, you can take objects, you can take strings, you can take functions, and you can even take an array itself. So let's just go ahead and just put it to a little bit of test. Let's declare an empty array. Let's just name it my array. And you can just say my array 0 is equal to, let's make the first index of our array equal to an object. We can just say, let's say our array is equal to our person object, and we said person can have a name is equal to name is David. We can say age is 12, for example. Then if we go ahead and console.log my array to the screen, we can see that the first, let's go ahead and add one more. Let's say my array 1 is equal to a string David. So if we go ahead and save this and we run this, we can see that the first element in our array is an object which is named David, age 12, and the second element is a string called David. Like I said, we can also have an array as an element of an array. So we can just say my array 2, for example, is equal to maybe an array with numbers in there like 1, 2, and 3. So if we go ahead and run this again, you can see that the elements in our array becomes 3. The first one being an object, the second one being a string, and the third one being a sequence of number, which is an array. Now let's go ahead to do some more fun stuff with arrays. One of the good things with JavaScript is that there are some properties or functions that are built into arrays, like for us to use. An example of this these properties will be length. So for example, we have 1, 2, 3 as our array. We have a sequence of number which is 1, 2, 3. We can find out the length of this array by just using the length property of an array, and you do that by just saying you call the arrow, then you access the property of the length property of the array. It's a property, so this should count how many. It should count the length of this array, which should be 3 in this case. So let's go ahead and console.log our array.length to the screen. Console.log, and if we go ahead to save this and we run this, we can see that it's 3 because we have 3 elements in our array. We can make it 4 and try to check it. We can add a string to it, and we try to check it, and we see that the element in our array becomes 5. Now this is actually good because, for example, you have an array, you don't know the length and you want to add something to it. What you can just do is you get so you can just say length. Let's declare another variable var. Length is equal to my array dot length. Now if we go away, we are aware that the length of our array now is 5, so this length value will store 5. If we want to add, another way in which we can add to the array by just saying, so my array, then we use the length of the array. Now we have ascertained that we access arrays by the index. So this is 0 index, 2 index, 0 index, the first index, second index, third, fourth. So that means the index of the last element in our array has an index of 4. Meanwhile, length would be equal to 5. If we want to add another element to this array, we have to add to the fifth. We have to give it index 5. So now, since this one is already 5, we can just say my array length is equal to 6, for example. Or let's do a string, sixth element, sixth element. Now if we save this and let's try to print out our array now. Console.log my array. You can see that we've added our sixth element. Let's do something. Let's console.log length to the screen. Console.log length to the screen. So if we go ahead and save this and run this first, you can see we have 5. So this 5 is what we put into, so this, what we are doing here is basically saying my array 5 is equal to sixth element. So that makes this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. So the fifth index is the sixth element. So that's what we basically did here. Now this is not the only way through which you can add to an array. Arrays have a function called the push function. You can just use, rather than using the length and using the length to add, you can just say my array then dot push. So it's a function that is already built into arrays that you can just access as a property and use it to add some items. So let's go ahead and see add our sixth element into the array. Sixth element. So now if we go ahead and we go ahead to print out my array to the screen, which is console.log my array. We should have sixth element also added in this case, which we do. Now there are a couple other functions that we can use, and one of them is the pop. We use the pop. This is the pop function. we use the pop function. It's just like this. We use the pop function to remove the last element of an array. So currently the last element of an array is, let's do console.log our array. Then let's run a pop function on it. So my array dot pop. So if we go ahead and save this, what this does is it removes the last element of an array. It just pops this one off. So if we go ahead and run this, okay, we popped it but we did not print it out to the screen. Let's go ahead and copy this and paste it after we've popped the array. If we go ahead and run this, we can see that it first displayed the array completely, then it took off the last items. Now aside pop, we can also shift. We can also run a shift function on our array. So if we go ahead and do this, we still have 1 2 3 4, then string PO over here. If we shift this and we go ahead and run this again, it takes off the first one. So shift removes the first element in an array, while pop removes the last element in an array. So some of the other things we can do is we can concatenate arrays as well using the concat function. So for example, we have an array of numbers here, and we have another array, my array 2, and that one is, let's say, 5 6 7 8. We can run a concatenate on the both of them just by calling my array function, my array dot concat. Then you can just concat it, and what this receives, the argument this receives, will be my array 2. Now if we go ahead and run this, we console.log my array to the screen, console.log my array to the screen. What we get is, okay, I think there's an error. So I found the error. Before you can concatenate, this has actually been concatenated, but what you have to do is you have to store this function into a new variable. So you can just say result array is equal to my array, then you concatenate my array 2 to it. So if you go ahead and print this out to the screen now, console.log result array, and you run Node.Arrays.js, you can see that result array becomes a concatenation of my array and my array 2. So you can do for multiple as well. You can have, for example, var my array 3, then you set that equal to 9 10, for example, 9 10. Then you can now concatenate my array with array 2 and my array 3, and you store that into result array. If you go ahead and run this, you should have your array become 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. There are a lot of things we can do with arrays. We are actually going to do a lot with it, and I hope you guys get a fair understanding of this. You understand as we move on. Thank you.